Hey YouTube, it's Nimistaka and I'm back with you today for part 2 of the Sovereign, the massive mega Sovereign unboxing and show. So if you don't fancy Sovereigns, probably a good idea to turn off now. If you haven't got a fair amount of time to take a look at this video, then maybe go and make a cup of tea, come back when you've got a bit more time and we can luxuriate in Sovereigns. I think there's about 23 Sovereigns in a number of little packages here, and the ones that are in these packages are Victorian. So if you like older Sovereigns, then this is the video for you. And these Sovereigns are ones that have been sent for grading by one of our famed Sovereign collectors over on the Silver Forum. Great place to talk about Sovereigns if you're interested. So do go over to the Silver Forum, register and have a fun time talking to fellow collectors and fellow stackers. I'd say it's about 50-50 really between stackers and collectors, and of course some people do both. So, and here's an 1869, a shield back. Very nice. All of these coins are, as usual with this particular collector, if you've seen some of my other videos, they're all in pretty good condition. Hopefully they'll all grade pretty well. And in this video, towards the end, there is some coins that are real rarities. And so if you like variations and rarities, I think there's about 6 or so of these coins that are pretty rare. This one is very noteworthy, particularly. It's very unusual because it's a proof-like coin. And it's not a proof coin. It wasn't done as a proof strike. But sometimes when they made coins with a new die, then they got an effect like this, where the devices are all kind of frosted like a proof coin, and then the fields have this kind of mirrored finish. And it's very unusual. Like if it was polished, it would have a totally different look, but a very attractive coin, and it'll be really interesting to see how that one grades up. So while a lot of Sovereigns may look as if they're the same, one of the delights of collecting Sovereigns is that there is a massive difference in rarity between certain dates, even within the same range, and tons of varieties. 1858 was a great year. It was a great year in terms of rarity for Sovereigns. I bought an 1859 recently at auction, and my one didn't grade amazingly well. This 1858 is even rarer than the 59 and will grade much better than my one. And it looks to be a great coin, and again, I can't wait to see how that one grades. 1857, pretty normal. 1858 and 1859 are pretty hot, rare years. 1857 was a pretty normal year. I guess what happened is they made tons and tons of coinage in 1857, and they found that enough remained in circulation, so they didn't really need that much more. And so 1858, 1859 maybe were little booster years. Here's an 1855. With a variation, and you can see the owner of these coins has marked the different spink numbers, and here's a look at what that spink number means. So number C is the second large head on these Sovereigns, and there's lots of minor variations in these coins. Again, a very nice coin. Hopefully it should grade very well, and you can see here the WW on the raised WW on this coin, and that could be quite a rare variety. Not quite sure actually at this point, because there's conflicting information in Spink and Marsh that and I wasn't quite sure whether this was actually the rare one or maybe it isn't. So somebody who knows these things, do tell me whether that was the rare one, or whether Marsh, maybe is Marsh right on everything, or is there better information somewhere? Okay, so let's continue to meander through this lovely collection of Sovereigns, and let's have a look and see what else there is to see in this collection, which might be of interest. Okay, so next up is an 1874. I looked in Marsh and it says this coin is rare, and I always like seeing and finding the ones that are rare. Whenever I buy job loads of sovereigns, there's always very, very few, if any, rare ones in those lots. People have been through them already and sifted out the ones that are in good condition and the rare ones. But some of them I found have graded pretty well nevertheless. This particular collector has sought out ones that are in spectacular uncirculated condition. And there's a value in Spink for the uncirculated sovereign, and it's always difficult to work out which ones are truly uncirculated and what that Spink value actually really means. And so I always think it's safer to have them graded properly with a numerical grade so that it's pretty clear which ones are in that uncirculated condition. And for a lot of these coins, that's probably 65, 66, 67. It's the top grades of MS standard coins. So quite a few variations. Some of the variations are not rare variations, but they are variations. And this particular collector has written down the Spink number. So this one is 3865F. There's lots of variations. 1980, and you can tell that 1980 could be worth up to £850 if it was in the top uncirculated condition, but only maybe £300 if it was in average condition. So this one is probably worth somewhere between those two extremes. BP, a lot of the variations are no BP, small BP, large BP, and the BP stands for Benedetto Pistrucci, who is obviously famous from the 2017 Sovereign, the Pistrucci Sovereign from the St George and the Dragon. So BP, and WW stands for William Wyon, the famous meddler. Meddler, that sounds a bit strange, doesn't it? Is that right, meddler? Anyway, the guy who created medallic art and created the Victoria portrait. 1882, this one, beautiful condition, really, really nice. Another one that should grade very, very well. Next one coming up, 1875M, so Melbourne Sovereign, Australian Sovereign. Marsh rates this one as normal. So there's common, normal, scarce, rare, and then rare 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So if something's rare 5, 6, 7, and there could be literally for some of the rarest sovereigns just a handful of coins in existence that have been discovered so far in that particular variety. I promised you guys that some of these coins in this video were extremely rare, and this is one of them. 1889 Melbourne Jubilee Head Sovereign, a variety, a scarce variety. A note for me that this is Legend 1 with a small mintage and R3, rare Marsh R3. First legend, angled J, and it's got a particular number and it's been identified as a rarity. And some of these Jubilee Head Sovereigns are extremely rare, very, very small mintages for varieties. And in fact, I'm going to show you in a little bit the catalogue for the big Iverson collection of Jubilee Sovereigns, and just take you through that. I don't personally know all of the intricate details of all these varieties, but I do know that there was in June of this year an auction which I think was organised by Sovereign Rarities, which was for the Iverson collection of sovereigns, and within that collection was the biggest collection ever put together of these very, very rare varieties of Jubilee Sovereign. So let's continue taking a look through these other varieties before we get to the Iverson collection. This one's a 3857A Sovereign, and it's another variety, also an expensive variety in uncirculated condition. Here's an 1855 Sydney sovereign, another Australian sovereign. Look at the crispness of that S on the Sydney. No real sign of wear on this coin. Should grade extremely well. Another little one here, 1887 Jubilee head sovereign. Until quite recently, when I started learning a little bit about these different varieties, I always thought, all the Jubilee head sovereigns were the same. If I saw a sovereign with a Jubilee head on it, I thought, oh, well, that's a pretty standard bullion sovereign, and whilst a lot of them are standard bullion sovereigns, this one, for example, is a rare 5 one, almost the top level of rarity, possibly only 5 or so coins known of this variety. Might be more than that discovered, but this is a particularly expensive variety. This is probably worth maybe 8 or 10 times the value of an average sovereign. Here's another one, another variety. Also, according to Downey's, maybe only 5 of these thought to exist as well. Mintage 28,000. R4, this one, not an R5. And there's quite a lot of information about these different rare varieties in the Marsh book, the Gold Sovereign, and you can see R7 one. There's an R7 thought to be potentially unique. This one, the a question mark over how many exist, and generally, it's thought that very, very few of these varieties exist. And let's take a quick look through the Downey's, not through the Iverson collection of catalogue, not the Downey's collection. So this catalogue is for the Sovereign Rarities sale from earlier on in the year. And they basically put together a whole collection of these very, very rare, rare to rare 7 coins, explaining all the different varieties. So whilst I haven't read all this yet, if you do want to know about the varieties of sovereigns and want to be on the lookout for rare varieties, a great treasure hunt, because these varieties can be worth many, many times the value of an ordinary sovereign, then it's worth trying to pick up a copy of this catalogue somewhere. The catalogues are still available pretty frequently, so it might be worth picking up one of these catalogues, and it acts as a great reference guide to these varieties. There are also some other catalogues. You might find some PDFs online from the Bentley collection of sovereigns from a few years ago. And I think there's several parts to the Bentley sale. And each one of those catalogues, there's PDFs online, and there's some great material to explain the relative rarity and the varieties to look for within this field of collecting of gold sovereigns. So back to the last few, and maybe that puts some of these into perspective. There's quite a few of these very, very rare varieties that were featured in the Iverson collection, and I think that they are certainly worth looking out for. And there are some specialist dealers that focus just on sovereigns who can look out on your behalf if you want to pick up one of these varieties. You don't quite know how to recognize it. It can be worth having a relationship with one of those dealers so that they can keep you informed when any of these things come up, because a lot of these coins don't come up too often. So they come up at various sales, maybe at Heritage, maybe or through Sovereign Rarities, maybe they come up through the Royal Mint. There's a number of sources, Baldwin's maybe, and there's a few of the main auction houses. DNW come across some of these sometimes. But a lot of these coins didn't come from standard channels. I think that's fairly true to say. They came from specialist places and were sought out for their quality and rarity in building a collection of sovereigns. So it may be that you just want to collect the odd sovereign. It may be that you just like one sovereign in your collection. Maybe you want a typeset. Maybe you want to collect the different heads of Victoria sovereigns, or maybe one of each Victorian plus the kings plus Queen Elizabeth. You know, probably even with about 8 or 10 coins, you can achieve quite a good representative collection of sovereigns. And it's certainly a field which is interesting and worth looking at. And I hope that some of these videos that I've been putting out showing the sovereigns that are owned by members of the Silver Forum have opened a few eyes in terms of this this field of collecting, because there seems to be so much in it that is interesting. These ones are the old head sovereigns with the Victorian veiled head. I'm never so keen on the veiled head sovereigns. I prefer the young head sovereigns, but that's just my particular thing. You know, if you like to collect veiled head sovereigns, you can probably pick up slightly better ones that are around, because not as many people seem to collect the veiled head sovereigns as the earlier ones. But here's a look at the different heads all together. So you've got the Jubilee head, the young head, and the veiled head. And then you've got a lot of different mints as well. In Victorian times, you had Melbourne, Sydney, and London. And there you go, and all these different rarities for the Jubilee head. That's all from me, and that's probably the longest video that I'll be making on sovereigns. The rest of the time it'll just be the odd few arriving for grading from Silver Forum members. So thanks for watching, and please like, subscribe and comment.